Welcome to the Network Marketing Made Simple podcast. I am your host, Scott Aaron, and each and every week I'm going to come to you with short, simple, and powerful tactics of how you can grow your network marketing business, brand, bank account, and impact on those around you. And just remember, network marketing is not easy, but it can be made easy with simple steps to create the success that you truly deserve. Welcome to episode 156 of the Network Marketing Made Simple podcast. And if you are a new listener, then welcome. And if you are a returning listener, then welcome back. And as always, if you are a business coach, online coach, entrepreneur, network marketer, new or seasoned to your profession, and you are still building your business through the primary means of Facebook and Instagram, and you are not yet leveraging and harnessing the power and potential that LinkedIn could have on your business, your bank account, and your impact, then head over to my website, www.scottaaron.net, where you can schedule a free 15-minute call with me where I can learn more about you, your business, what you're struggling with, and how we can work together. So as you guys always listen, I'm always excited for episodes, especially when they're interviews. But when I have a very close friend come on that I look up to and I admire and has helped me personally, and I know is helping so many other people, I get even more excited because I know how beneficial this episode is going to be for all of you, because the person that I have for you guys today is someone that I was in a mastermind with all of 2019, but it was more so just kind of fate. At the first meeting that we had, we sat next to each other. I didn't know him. He didn't know me, but we obviously both admire Porsche, and we really connected with our love of cars. And then it just developed into this great friendship where we talk often and we bounce ideas off each other. And I'm just so excited for him because in the last 7 to 8 months, he's launched his coaching program that is absolutely transforming people's lives, because he really focuses on that personal breakthrough. And he works with a lot of high performers that are looking to end that story that's in their head and get out of their head, get into their heart, start writing a new chapter so they can really start living and creating the best life possible. So without further ado, Brooks Hollan, welcome to today's episode.
Hey, excited to be here.
Well, listen, brother, there's so much that we can talk about, but before we get to the coaching and everything that you do, for my audience that is not familiar with you and who you are and how you got to where you are today, just tell us a little bit of backstory of Brooks Hollan before the personal breakthrough coach that you are today.
Wow. Yeah, I would say that was a beautiful intro that you did. Like there's so many topics that we could take from there, but I'll give you the Cliff Notes version. You know, I started swimming competitively when I was 6 years old. I was doing 2-a-days by the time I was 7. I was ranked 4th in the nation by the time I was 10. I was working with my first Olympic swim coach. I ended up working with Michael Phelps's coach for 3.5 years. I swam at the Naval Academy. I qualified for NCAAs. I qualified for Olympic trials. And why do I say all that? Because I'll get more to this later. But that entire time, I never thought I was good enough. And after the Naval Academy, I headed out to Coronado, California to go become a Navy SEAL. And I ended up getting dropped. I got admin dropped 13 days until graduation. And that really kind of sent me into like a 15, 20 year tailspin. And it got to the point where I was in my mid 30s. I was sleeping on an air mattress in my buddy's house that was getting foreclosed on. Everything I owned was in a 10 by 10 storage unit. I was $32,000 in credit card debt. I had less than $5,000 to my name, and most of that was in military retirement that I put away, so it's not like I could touch it. And that's when I realized I had to start working on myself. This wasn't my dad's fault. This wasn't the military's fault. This wasn't these bosses' fault, that it was all me. And that kind of started a really it was a process, but that kind of started the journey of working on myself because I had to change those, those deep rooted beliefs of not being worthy, not being good enough. And and yeah, so that's kind of the quick backstory.
So obviously it's such a detailed backstory, and I want to go through it like point by point.
Yeah.
Doing two-a-days and being a top tier swimmer, it takes a lot of dedication, it takes a lot of consistency and habits. Before the Naval Academy, as a competitive swimmer on the national and obviously pre-Olympic level, what do you think you took away most from learning the discipline of being a high achieving swimmer that you were able to apply now to your everyday life and other people could as well?
I think a lot of it, in a sense, was it was all that I'd ever known. I mean, I started doing it when I was 6 years old, and again, it was a choice by me. So it wasn't like my parents were pushing me in to do this. It's just I stumbled across swimming. I mean, that's a story for another day. How I got into swimming, and but yeah, I just stuck with it. I mean, there's always the days when I was like, yeah, I don't feel like going to swim practice. My parents like, well, you're going to swim practice, but it was just something that I wanted to do, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I guess starting at such that early age, like it's all that I ever knew was doing that. So I had to be efficient with my time, with school and everything. And I guess I liked being busy. And I guess when I look back now, I mean that's why I call my company Service to Purpose. But there was still an essence of like serving that identity, like my identity, because at an early age, I was all over the newspaper. So it was like getting this recognition, getting this, external validation. And, it's like we all want to be successful, but it's like really like that was my identity. I was Brooks the swimmer. And so, yes, I enjoyed it. But then as I look back, there was also that element that was also a driving force as well.
So, as you progress through obviously, swimming, and then what was it about the Naval Academy? Was it more so the discipline and the structure that you learned as a swimmer that translated into obviously the military? What was the big push or the interest in stepping into the whole military aspect, and as far as the next step in your career in life?
Well, I think there was a couple things. One of them was the neighbor that lived across the street from us for years. His name was Ben Calmary. He graduated from the Naval Academy in the class of 1944. He helped develop the hydrogen bomb. He was a pilot in World War II. I mean, just a very esteemed person. It's like that was my neighbor across the street. And it's like I'd go spend hours talking with him and hanging out with him and hearing his stories. So there was that element that was pretty cool. I also swam with another girl whose dad went to the Naval Academy, and he actually was Casper Weinberger's roommate for a couple years. So I had those two influences, but then there was also that coming from Tallahassee, Florida, I knew that I wanted to go to a good school, but I also knew that, didn't have this big bankroll that was going to send me to an Ivy League school. And with swimming back, I mean, I was talking to some of the Ivy Leagues, but swimming's not a money sport. So it was really, hey, we can get books or something like that. And then it was really that service to the country. I mean, it really roots back to, I think Ben was huge. I mean, seeing the memorabilia on his wall and his stories and those relationships. 'Cause I knew people would come to visit him that he'd graduated with, 40, 50 years, you know, earlier. And so I think I saw that. And it was a great way. And it also, for me, it was that, I was responsible, at that point. I mean, 10 days after I graduated high school, I was gone to the Naval Academy and I looked like I was my own man. I had a roof over my head. I had 3 meals a day. And that was part of that. Like, that was how I got to be completely independent of, of my parents and everything else. And then as like I get to serve my country, like there was just so many things that went into it.
And you said that obviously 13 weeks before graduation, and you shared this with me offline, when we've had some of our late night conversations when we were out at our mastermind, and you said that was a real pivotal moment in your life. Talk a little bit about that moment when you found that out, and again, the 15 to 20-year tailspin, but obviously how that moment not only transcended that time in your life where that was the story that you were looking to let go, but how in the end, 15 to 20 years later, how that moment really motivated you and inspired you to be doing what you're doing today.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. You always hear like, our pain is our purpose, but it took me forever to figure out the gift. So, as I'd been successful in swimming, like everything I'd set my mind to, I'd accomplished. So we had 52 guys competing for 15 SEAL slots out of the academy. I got one of those 15 slots, get out to SEAL training, and I was doing great. But the big thing was when we were back at the academy during the summer training, what the thing in my downfall was basically I jumped free fall with the SEALs when I was civilian qualified, not military qualified. Because I had some videotape of doing 50-way state record attempts in Delaware. I met some SEALs. They saw the videotapes. They're like, "Hey, you should come jump with us." So I knew they were hooking me up, but I wasn't military qualified. So really, that was the thing that got me in the end. It was that politics. But yeah, I got dropped 13 days till graduation, from SEAL training, and it's like I paid my dues because everybody knew about it at Bud. So all the instructors. So, I paid my dues you know, for that mistake. But at the end, I got dropped from training. And like I was talking about earlier, like the identity of being Brooks the swimmer. Well, after, college was over, I kind of traded that identity in to go be, all right, I got to go be Brooks, the badass Navy SEAL. Like, what's the best next thing that I can do? And then really it was once that got dropped, I mean, I was lost. I mean, not only did I not have friends or other people around me, but I didn't have an identity. I didn't know who I was. I didn't have any value. Like if I wasn't competing in the pool or I wasn't a SEAL. But again, all those things really was, from a place of ego, in a place of trying to prove to everybody else that I was enough. And this is what took me, years and years. And I mean, it probably took me over 20 years to really come to grips with what that was. But I was just like floating through life. I would set out to do something. I would get to the end and it was like a glass ceiling. I would just tail off, sort of the same thing that happened at SEAL training. Like I couldn't complete anything. And I just kind of and yeah, it was showing up in all areas of my life. And I had to, it got to the point where I was in my mid 30s and I'd just been repeating a pattern now since I was 21 or 22. And that's when I really had to take responsibility and, do the work on myself.
So let's talk about taking responsibility, because I think there's a lot of people that can relate to this. Is obviously the coaching that you do now, but also what you've been through in your own personal life, is that we have this identity. And I can relate to it so much because my identity for 18 years was Scott, the personal trainer. And that's all I was known, because that's all I did. And there's a lot of people that step into entrepreneurship and even network marketing, and that employee mindset or their identity is still where it's been for the last X amount of years. With all the coaching that you've done for other people, but also all the work that you've done on yourself, why do you feel it's most difficult for people to let go of that identity that is no longer serving them?
Because, and this was the biggest thing for me, was really understanding what the ego is and how powerful it is. So the ego's job is to keep us safe. And the ego is basically that voice in the head that really never shuts up. Like that's not us, that's our ego. And so for me, and I would say for most people, it roots down to three things. So if someone says like, I got made fun of in school because I wasn't smart enough. If you root down, I'm not smart enough, it goes down to like, I'm not good enough. So like I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I'm not lovable. Those are kind of the big three and they're almost the same thing, but those were pretty much everything roots down to. And so my ego, for me especially, was trying to keep me safe from being seen as not good enough or not worthy. And so that voice in the head is going to, to drive me. So for the first part, it drove me through success because I kept getting validation from the newspapers, from winning trophies and the ribbons and all the accolades that, okay, yes, I'm worthy. Like, yes, I'm enough. But then once I got dropped from buds, and I got dropped from SEAL training, what happened is there's that story was there, but then all of a sudden I shifted and I let the perfectionism and the procrastination keep me from taking action because if I took action, I was going to be seen as not good enough or not worthy. And so that's where, anything perfectionism or procrastination related, that's being on the side of not taking action because the ego is keeping you safe from being seen. And on the flip side of that is there's the people that quote unquote GSD, they get stuff done, they crush their to-do list, like they're going at 9,000 RPM all the time. And they're getting all the exterior trappings of success. They've got the likes, the comments, the shares. The problem is it's like revving an engine constantly because they can't take a break. Because if they don't have that constant stream of external validation that they're enough, then they got to deal with that pain that's underneath the surface. And that's when people start having the burnout, they start getting, the big time diseases, the cancers, the things like that. Like, and that's where you realize that you can't outrun this. You've got to do that work, the deep work that's underneath the surface.
So why do you feel it's so hard? Once people turn the mirror around, obviously it's amazing what happens when people start having these personal breakthroughs. What's the typical blockage? Because there's a lot of network marketers that are listening to this because, they're not achieving the success that they want. And it's not that they're doing anything wrong, but as you said, our ego gets in the way and we end up self-sabotaging. So
Yeah. I was an expert at it for decades.
what can people do?
And this is the thing. So it's getting the awareness, and really the big awareness is that we can't do it ourselves. And that's why we have to, for this, I mean, I've invested over $400,000 in coaching, masterminds, events, workshops, retreats, all that kind of stuff. And, you know, I've listened to all the books, the podcasts, all that stuff. And the thing is, the ego is not going to let you, quote unquote, fix yourself by reading a book or a podcast or listening to a podcast or the video course. And that's where I found like it's so key. And everybody that's successful in the world has one, is a coach. Whether it's the news anchor, they have a vocal coach, they have a speaking coach. Our singers have vocal coaches, they have stage presence coaches. I mean, it doesn't matter. Your executives have coaches, your athletes have coaches. Like, anybody that's at the top of their game at any level has to have a coach, because even the greatest, and because the thing is, you can't coach yourself. Because you can't, whether it's sports, you can't see your form. You have to have that external, you have to have that other set of eyes. And the big thing is like, they don't have your ego, they don't have that thing that's trying to keep you safe, they don't have that voice that's trying to self-sabotage you. So you got to have somebody that's on your side, that's looking out for your back, that can see inside your blind spots, because
So
that's where the key is.
coaching is very prominent now. What would you say the biggest difference between a coach and a mentor is? Because you and I both know, having network marketing backgrounds as well, that our upline is not, they're 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 not responsible for our success. We are. And
Yeah.
and
And neither
every
is a coach. I was like, look,
right.
a great coach, like, take no credit, take no blame. Like, I'm responsible to somebody, not for them.
Mhm.
And like,
So
that's a big thing, because people want to take it on, but then you start taking it on, it's from a place of ego. And like, the real free, I mean, because I look at all the people that tried to help me. I mean, I was like a pit bull trying to go meow. And they just, I had to learn and figure that out on my own time. And that's just why, some people take action quickly and some people don't. And either, no matter what happens, like, there's no judgment from my part, because they're on their own path. And I was the same way. Like, I look back, man, I could have figured, like, but I get why I had to go through all that. That's why I can relate to people, because I know their pain. I know what that voice in the head's doing to them. I know what they're going through. And that's what it finally grasped once I got to the other side of it.
And how valuable now do you feel in network marketing and entrepreneurship or life in general? How important and essential is personal coaching with someone that is ready for that breakthrough and they're ready to move forward, regardless of the investment that they need to make?
I mean, it's a game changer. I mean, I used to hate network marketing. I couldn't stand it. And now, like, my wife and I were the Isogenics 196 millionaires, and we've been top 100 income earners for a couple of years now. And now I love network marketing because really all it is just a microcosm for your life. So if, someone's like, "Hey, I'm not successful in network marketing." Well, how many conversations are you having? None. Well, if you're not having any conversations there, you're probably not having any conversations in life. Or maybe you're having tons of conversations, but nobody's taking any action. So what are you saying in those conversations? Like, network marketing is really, it's just a magnifying glass. It's just a great container to do the work on yourself because, you know, I look back, I had all the stories about network marketing that everybody else has, but again, they're just stories based on my own limiting beliefs. But as I've gotten to the other side and I've been successful, the people that I've met in network marketing, they're in the top 100. They're just like people that I've met in other masterminds or other businesses, that are successful as well. I mean, people always talk about, oh, there's only the top part of network marketers that are making money. Well, go to New York City, like everybody in finance isn't managing a hedge fund. It's the same thing everywhere. It's just, we just got to own, what's the story that we're telling ourselves about it? Like, how is this, how is saying that network marketing is, bad or all these other things? Like, how is that keeping me safe as an individual?
So I want to read you a quote from a friend of mine in the network marketing space, something that they posted, and it stirred up a lot because you see a lot of people coaching in network marketing and this, that, or the other. And I'm going to read the quote, and I want to get your take on it. So the quote is, "I don't understand why people hire business coaches, quote unquote, to teach them something they've never done. Next time you get on a plane, see how comfortable you would be flying if the pilot told you they'd never actually flown. Let me know how that works out." So, what's your take, number one, on that quote? But also, what's your take on people coaching? And does that coach need to master that craft, or are some people better coaches than they are players of the game?
Yeah, I mean, 'cause this is such a big thing out there with all the coaches and people wanting a standard. And I also think like it's just life because there's lessons for both parties in there. Like, as a person that's looking for a coach, you get to stand in your own power and your own value, and you get to ask the questions. Because yeah, it only stands to reason that, hey, for me personally, I would only want a coach that has some sort of a track record. Now, let's take for coaching, like Bill Belichick obviously doesn't have the arm of Tom Brady, but that doesn't mean that he's not a good coach, but he's a great coach in football and all the other intangibles. So the person doesn't necessarily have to do the exact same thing, but they have to have an experience. And that's where you get to ask those questions. You don't just say someone's a coach, and if you feel steamrolled and you're not owning your voice, like, that's something that you get to work on. Because my feeling is, in the end, like, all these coaches, doesn't matter, their heart's in the right place. Like, they want to help people. And this is just the big shift, is a lot of people are still trying to help from an empty cup, from a place of like, they'll help everybody else but themselves. And the thing is, we have to help others with a full cup. We have to love ourselves. We have to work on ourselves first so that we can then truly help others. It's just like, I've seen money mindset coaches that don't have any money. I've seen dating coaches that don't have any dates. I've seen business coaches that haven't had a business. And there's nothing, it's like their heart's in the right place. It's just, it's on both ends. And the thing is, it's going to work out because they're going to attract a client that's going to be a learning experience for both of them. And like, that's the way that I look at it, because as and it's hard to explain, but it's like, once you actually make that shift you will start attracting different people into your life. So, successful business coach that's grown businesses to 6 or 7 figures is automatically going to attract a different coach than someone that's coaching from knowledge versus wisdom. Because wisdom is knowledge applied. It's like, I have wisdom of, going from zero to the most I've done is 2.1 million. So doesn't mean I don't have knowledge for stuff above that, because I've been in rooms with people that have, but I don't have the wisdom because I haven't done it. But it's like, but at least I know when I get to that point, I can refer people to somebody else that can help them to that next level. Because that was a big thing that I learned, is like talking to these guys that have taken companies from zero into the hundreds of millions. And there's different people for each stages. Again, it goes back to those belief sets. Like, there's people that literally, what they do in life is they take businesses from 10 million to 50 million, and then they basically step out and they go find another one to take to 10 to 50 million, because there's a different level of problems at each level. And it's the same sort of thing with this other level of coaching. So if a coach, hasn't done it, they're going to keep attracting those people until they get those lessons and then get those breakthroughs, and then they'll start attracting a different level of client. But the way to, maybe mitigate some of those early mistakes is if you're the person hiring a coach, don't be afraid to ask the questions. Don't be afraid to, stand up for yourself. Make sure, it's your money, it's your investment in your life. And here's the deal. Even if it's a bad coach, guess what? It's going to be a great learning experience, because that's how we all learn. I mean, I've done the same thing. So that's why when I step back now, there's people that are always complaining about coaches or anything. And it doesn't matter what it is that, aren't good, and that's where the thing is, I don't think there necessarily needs to be legislation or regulation, because these are the life experiences. They're going to end up helping and transforming both people. It's just part of the lesson.
So obviously, you and Natalie have had a lot of success in network marketing, and you've had your ups and downs, just like everybody has. What would you say was one of the defining factors in when you first started network marketing to the success that you guys are still having 6 and 7 years later?
I mean, and we definitely didn't do it like most people. I think the big thing that we did differently is we planted a lot of seeds early on, and we basically went just for people that really got the business. We weren't having we weren't having any conversations around products. It was all around, the business and the value that was there. And it's just, we planted a whole bunch of seeds early on. And that was the thing. It's like, we had our other business, and when it was probably 2 solid months, but then that other business went down a little bit. I mean, there's so many hours in a day, and it's like getting back to those messages, and because it was an online business, so that dipped a little bit. But we planted a bunch of seeds and kind of went back to that and just kind of nursed things along. And there was also an element we had. We got some great people in, and some of those people stayed, but some of those people, they enrolled a bunch of people, and then some of those people became rock stars. I think it's just the big thing that people need to realize with network marketing. You're looking at, like, let's just take Isogenics, for example. There's only like 5% of Isogenics that are actual business builders. And of that 5%, that's actually, and I think that's only making like 500 or $1,000 a year or more. I forget their exact requirement, but that's only 5%. But that's the thing is, people want to put in 3 people and one of them doesn't become a business builder. I mean, you gotta put in 100 people to find the 5 people that are building a business, and one of those 5 is going to be a rock star. And it's just, most people never get to that point. And it's just, you got to get those seeds planted, and you got to let the duplication, because I think now we have like 47,000 people, that we're getting a haircut from their products each month. And there's people in there that became rock stars that we don't even know. But it's like, you got to get to that. You got to get that volume. But that's the limiting belief is, we enrolled, 10 people, and, but we need only 5 out of 100 are going to be, that business builder. And so, but when we targeted only business builders, people that got the opportunities, that was one thing that, that we did.
So, what's your best piece of advice to that person that's listening to this that is still struggling with their past story? They they're still self-sabotaging. They're letting that the ego that was once there still be the driving force.
Yeah, the ego is always going to be there. Like my ego is always going to try to keep me safe from being seen as not worthy, not good enough. It's just now I've pushed through that discomfort. So now I've got some new neural pathways in the brain that I can link back to. And that's really is like, there's a series of tools. There's ways to manage that conversation with the voice in the head so that we can continue to take action, because now we have, we start getting some repetitions. Because that's the thing, everybody wants to find confidence. I want to find confidence. I want to get confidence. Like there's a very, very, very simple formula for confidence. It's consistency and courageous actions. So I don't care what it is. The first time you do anything, it's not going to be confidence. It's going to be courage. And once you have consistency in taking those courageous actions, that's how you build confidence.
So important. So with that,
and so I guess really to answer your question is, you got to get honest with yourself. You got to get honest with yourself. What's that voice in the head saying? And again, I was like, I played the victim role for so many years. It was my dad's fault. Like he never, and again, I have an amazing relationship with my dad now. My dad was amazing growing up. But again, these are stories that that we create when we're before the age of 10. And so now as we look back in adults, we can see like, wait a second, yeah, that's not really at all what happened. And I can see exactly where my dad was. But again, I had to get down to that root level. I mean, I went 18 years without going home. And it was August 2017 when I was doing some personal development work, and we did an exercise that was great. And then I just said, man, I need to go. This was a great exercise. I need to go do this in real life. And so I got in my car. I drove 5,832 miles round trip from California to Florida and back. And I showed up unannounced and knocked on the door, and I spent 3.5 days with my parents, and it was amazing. And really the big thing was there was just like, I had to take ownership, and it was forgiveness. And it was forgiveness for all the blame and everything else that I'd put on somebody else. And just I call those 1,000-pound invisible anchors. I didn't carry, my pain on the outside from an external, like by carrying extra body weight, but I was carrying lugging these 1,000-pound invisible anchors with me everywhere. And like letting that go was just massive. And it transformed the relationship with my parents, like just massive shift for me. And it's that, forgiveness is a huge, huge piece.
so talk about, before we start to wrap up, once someone learns how to forgive themselves, how radical can the change become for their life? How radical is it when someone can finally let go of that past story and forgive themselves?
I mean, it's a game changer. And here's the thing is like things start happening rapidly. And because once we forgive ourselves, I mean, I know it sounds, again, you're talking to a guy that was in hardcore athletics in the military, like talking about stuff like self-love would have made me gag. But really, when we don't get at peace with ourselves, when we don't love ourselves, we can't love anybody else. We can't really have love. Like we have to be complete ourselves. Otherwise it's just codependency. And then there's all the other, ways that we numb out. But it's like, once we do the forgiveness, forgive ourselves, forgive others, and we're forgiving others from the sense of like the blame that we've placed on them. Because once we see the gift in absolutely everything, it's literally a game changer. I mean, I've had some really, really, really dark times. To know you and I have talked about that, and it was just leveraging the emotion we have to feel, because emotion is fuel for change. And it was, once I did that and finally said, I'm enough, I've had enough, and to lean into that massive discomfort that the ego puts up so that we stay in our comfort zone. Like the comfort zone's not getting up a few minutes earlier, doing a few extra sets, or going skydiving or swimming with sharks. Like those things might be uncomfortable, but the real comfort zone is that thing that the ego is keeping you safe from. And it's going to feel like death. It's going to feel like you're under physical harm. You're going to feel nauseous. You're going to vomit. You're going to have diarrhea. Like it's going to be that visceral and real to face it. But like once you do, there's immense freedom on the other side, and now you've got a blazing new neural pattern to link back to. And when you learn to manage that conversation, then you can start taking those consistent actions to move forward.
I love that. So as we wind down, Brooksy, I know that, the coaching that you're doing now, and the things that you're doing for your clients with service to purpose is so transformational. So talk a little bit about the coaching that you do and the ideal client that you work with, and what they can expect from working directly with you.
So I call it service to purpose because, it's going from serving others, serving the ego, serving the identity at the expense of ourselves, to serving our true purpose. And it took me so long to figure this out, but my gift is getting to the root. My gift is people feel, because I've demonstrated vulnerability with them, they feel safe to share with me. And I've had people share stuff with me that I'm the second or third person they've told in the entire world their secrets they've kept for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And the thing is, like, we can't keep that bottled up. And it's just like we get in there and we change the beliefs and the story, and we rewrite those patterns so that we can move forward. And so this isn't like, I don't want to spend 20 years talking with somebody weekly. Like, I go back to get to the root so we can reprogram it so that we can move forward.
So how can people connect with you on social, or how can they learn more about your coaching online?
So again, I'm all about imperfect action. And again, from the other businesses, I know all the funnels and the fancy stuff. I have a very simple website, and it's service2purpose.com, service2purpose.com. I've got a short video there that if it resonates. And really what I found is, again, it's the people that have had success in their lives and they still don't feel that they're good enough. Maybe they're crushing it financially, or they're getting to that place where like there's still something missing. They're trying to outrun it. Or maybe they were super successful, but a couple things happen. They've been in a drought for years. And a lot of times it's also people that have worked with coaches in the past, because I mean, that's the thing in sports, like a good coach is going to push you to your greatness potential. And those people typically don't have a problem at doing the work. And that's what's amazing is like, because I attract those right kind of people that get massive results, and they get them rapidly. And like, that's where I love it. It just took me standing in my power to start doing that. Cause it's like, I'd been coaching for a while, but I was in that same place. A lot of people, it's like, okay, I'm kind of helping people, but I still hadn't totally had that massive, belief set shift myself. But then once that happened, it's literally just been a game changer.
Unbelievable. And obviously all this information is going to be in the show notes for people to connect with you. And I just wanted to thank you so much. And before we sign off, I have one final question for you, and there really is no wrong answer because it's what this means to you. So, Brooksy, what does success truly mean to you?
Success means loving yourself, because really from that place you can create anything. I mean, I think Tony Robbins says it best, like success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure.
Mm.
And just, I'm out here in Southern California. I've seen so many people that are, you know, crushing it from a financial standpoint, from a fame standpoint, all these other things. But if you're not at peace with yourself, it doesn't matter. And the thing is, you can't outrun it. You can't, a couple more $1 million, a couple more Emmys, Grammys, sold out concerts, like nothing's going to fill that void until you do the work on yourself. And so, I mean, that's what success is when you can, you know, when you're authentic and you're complete and you know who you are, and that's the way you move through life, and that's what, when you get triggered, you get to the root of it really quick because you keep working on you. Because anytime that we're triggered, it's never what the other person is. It's 100% something within us. And it's like when we start moving through life from that place and showing up that way, like it's amazing. And that's where you see people where they might not be making as much money as somebody else, but they're just, they're they're at peace with themselves. And that's huge.
Absolutely love it. And I know this is going to be one of those episodes that people will go back and listen to countless times because there are so many tangible takeaways and nuggets in here for people to really move themselves forward. And I really encourage all you guys that are listening to this to at least follow Brooks on social media, if not reach out to him.
Yeah.
He
Yeah,
does.
that's my website because my social media, I mean, I'm on Facebook, just my name, Brooks Hollan. You can search for me there. And then on Instagram, which again, I love spending time on the phone and connecting with small groups of people. So a lot of my social media, it's Porsches and fun stuff. But that's just at Life of Brooksy with little underscores between each word. Life of Brooksy on Instagram.
Awesome. So definitely follow him on Instagram. If you are, take a screenshot as you're listening to this episode and tag us on Instagram and let us know your feedback, your thoughts, your takeaways, the things that are moving you forward. And Brooksy, thank you so much for your time, your love, your energy.
Thanks, brother. I love it.
Just your knowledge. I know so many people are going to take so much away from this. So thank you for being a part of this.
It's my wisdom because I had to live it.
Exactly. And you got to share it. That's the whole point.
And that was the thing. That's just like literally nothing fills me up more than makes me happier than, shortening the cycle of being in that place that I spent, well over 2 decades in. And so it's just like nothing gives me more joy than, breaking people through that.
I love it. Well, brother, thank you again for being here. And for the listeners, thank you guys so much for tuning in today. I hope you found this episode helpful. Please enjoy the rest of your days, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you again so much for checking out this week's episode. And if you can, head over to iTunes, search for Network Marketing Made Simple, leave me a 5-star rating, basic review. I would be grateful for all of the support you guys can give me. And again, if you'd be interested in learning more how to utilize LinkedIn to grow your business, your brand, and your bank account, head over to my website, www.scottaaron.net. Fill out the form for your free 15-minute discovery call so I can learn more about you, your business, and how we can work together. And again, thank you guys so much. Grateful for you all, and I'll see you next time.